So on these problems, you're supposed to describe the changes and make sure the equations are there. So on every problem, make sure there are two equations, there's two graphs, and you've described all the changes. So on this one, I look at the graph on the left, and I'm going to compare the graph on the right to that one. So the center of this graph on the left is at 0, 0, but on the right, it has moved right 1 and down 3. So I'm going to write that. Right 1, down 3. Over here, when I went over 1, I went up 1. On the new one, when I go over 1, I go up 2. So that's twice as steep. So it's a vertical stretch by 2. So now, because my first graph is an absolute value graph, I know this graph is going to be an absolute value graph. It's going to have an x because it needs a variable in there. And now it's gone right 1. So remember, right 1 means negative 1 inside of here. And it's gone down 3, so that's minus 3. And it's twice as steep, so I put the 2 in the front. Now I know that is already on your paper, but you should be able to calculate that as well. So that was part A. 24 part B. So again, I'm looking at the middle of this one. And see, when I go over 1, I've gone up 1. When I've gone over 2, I've gone up 4. So this graph, you should be able to remember that, is an x squared graph. Okay, so now I look over here at my changes. This graph has gone left 2 and down 3, so I write that. Left 2, down 3. When I go right 1 to the center, I go up 1. When I go right 2, I still go up 4. So nothing has changed. It's not steeper. It's not reflected. All that has changed is it's moved left 2 and down 3. So h of x is going to be a squared graph. So I put parentheses and squared. It has an x. If it's moved left 2, that means this needs to be a plus 2. And down 3 means minus 3. So on part C, it has an absolute value of x. So when x is 1, the absolute value of 1 is still 1. When x is 0, the y value is 0. When x is negative 1, the absolute value of negative 1 is a positive 1. When x is negative 2, the absolute value of negative 2 is positive 2. And so I can graph my equation, or even graph your function. So this is my original. Now my changes, I look at this one, it has moved left 1 and up 2. So I'm going to write that. Left 1, up 2. It goes upside down, so we call that a reflection over the x. And over here I went right 1, up 1. Well, over here, I go right 1, and I don't go up 1. So I'm going to go clear over to here to where it actually crosses a corner. See how it goes through the corner of my little grids? So I have gone right 3 and only gone down 1. So rise over run, I dropped 1. And so you can put the reflection, or you can say that this is a negative slope. Either way, whatever you want to think about that as. But don't do both of them. When you write your equation, don't put a negative and a negative. The negative is what reflects it and makes it go down. So you only need one of them. So I'm going to have negative 1/3 because that's the reflection. And I've gone down 1/3, or it's 1/3 as steep as this one. So we call that a vertical shrink. And the factor of the vertical shrink is 1/3. Now it's going to be an absolute value, x, and I moved left 1, so plus 1. and up 2. And you should be able to type this into your calculator and see if this indeed makes the same picture as this one does. So you can check your own work. And now for part D, x squared. When x is 0, the y value is 0. When x is 1, 1 squared is 1. When x is negative 1 times negative 1 is still 1. When x is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. So that's my graph. Connect your dots. So there it is. Now I look at this one over here on the right, and it has gone, whoops, I forgot to draw the lines. It's gone right 2, and up 4. There's a reflection over the x-axis. And when I go left 1, I go down 1. So that doesn't change anything other as far as the same scale. Left 1, up 1. So I'm still doing 1 and 1. If this would have been like left 1 and 2, that would have been a vertical stretch of 2. Or if it would have been left 1 and just a half, that would have been a vertical shrink of a half. Okay, so that's how you look at those. So now to write my equation, I know it's going to be, so there's no vertical stretch, no vertical shrink, but it did reflect over the x, so that's a negative. It's still going to be a squared, and it moved right 2, so that means minus 2, and up 4, so plus 4. And that's all that you have to do on these translation ones. Make sure you're able to write an equation, make sure you're able to have all the graphs drawn, and you have all the changes labeled.